Hi, and welcome to Game Changer Coaching. My name is Daniel Connor of Connor's Coaching, and I want everyone to find the best version of themselves. Today, I am here with my guest, Erica Koelling of IamEricaKoelling.com. And welcome, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about spirituality, which is, I'm going to just be totally honest, is an uncomfortable topic for me because of my background. So I'm really excited to have you. And I just want to welcome our audience today and say that regardless of what your spiritual background is, you are welcome here today. Regardless of what religion you practice, regardless of what you believe, we want to make sure that you feel welcome and open. Everyone has a purpose on this planet. And I think, like the old kids program, G.I. Joe, knowing is half of the battle. The other half is living your life so that your purpose is represented, meaningful, and put into action. And so we're going to explore some of that topic today with Erica. And Erica, before we really delve deep, I think it's really helpful if we define what spirituality means to us so that we have kind of a good foundation. What does spirituality mean for you?
So that's a good question, and I could tell you this is one of my favorite topics. It's very uncomfortable, like you said, just because more and more of us are understanding what does spirituality mean, not just from a social perspective, but your own individual truth. So I would say like the best way to describe spirituality for me is really going beyond what you think you know about yourself. So the ego, when you go beyond that mind and body and you explore that realm, I call it the non-physical realm, just because there's different ways that you can say, what is spirituality? What is that? But I think the best way for me to put it is really to go beyond what you think about yourself, what you've been trained to learn and what you've been conditioned to learn about yourself, and really push beyond that.
Nice. So, kind of going beyond what everyone's told you to believe to find what you really believe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
That's
a lot
true.
of us, yeah, I mean, well, a lot of us, I think the average person just thinks of themselves as the mind and body, and they're this mind and body. So when you start exploring your spirituality, you're going beyond the mind and just this physicality. And
Yeah.
sometimes that, I mean, it's a rabbit hole. It really is a rabbit hole because once you start understanding more about yourself, and you can't, I think the biggest thing about spirituality is once you start exploring it, you can't go back, right? I mean, you can't, you learn things about yourself, like you never go back to who you thought you were, or you just start finding better aspects about yourself, and really coming to this concept of of one love, like we're all connected. So once you start understanding that, and you find out about your self-love, that's going to exuberate, and that's going to push outwards. So I think it's a really important topic, especially for the times that we're living in right now, and the suffering that we all have had and the traumas that we have had. It's so important to understand that self-love and to go in and understand the spiritual side of who you are. I love this topic.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Well,
me.
I'm so thankful. And I should just clarify that, Erica, you have been my coach um, through my kind of spiritual awakening recently, as well as I kind of have been dealing with kind of a new awareness or new appreciation of some of my emotional gifts and my emotional spiritual emotional connections. So I just wanted to acknowledge that you are a very gifted coach in this topic as well.
Thank you.
So, for me, I grew up in a cult, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So, spirituality has been kind of an area that I took a lot of wounds in my life. So I feel like I have developed a lot of scar tissue, and there was this moment during my coach training that it was explained to me, probably in an I mean, it was eye-opening for me, that we have personal development, right? And personal development is really deciding who we want to be. Spiritual development, on the other hand, is identifying who we were meant to be. And that was just like, because there are some things about ourselves that we just learn to accept as we get older. And those are the things, those are the aspects of our soul that we have been gifted with, that we just get to identify, learn to deal with, learn to make our weaknesses into our strengths, and take those into battle as our armor. And for me, I think that was kind of the hinging point on this topic, that spirituality was no longer a scary topic to be avoided. It was something that I did want to delve into. I did want to help people explore their spirituality, and help them identify their purpose in life. Why are
Mm-hmm.
we here?
And isn't that just the gift of coaching, right? When you see those people, anytime you're in front of someone, just see them have that aha moment about themselves. I mean, we always talk about this because when you tell me you're having aha moments, I'm like, this is it. I love it. This feels so good because
Yeah.
you're able to help people reflect back to who they are, and that's such a gift, just to be in that position, just to be a coach, and just to be able to do that. So it's my favorite thing, and definitely passion.
I also think that spirituality, I mean, we can't ignore the religious side of spirituality, because there are, I like to think of religion as kind of the house that you build around spirituality. It's the structure you put around it. I keep getting pop-up notifications. Sorry about that. So, um, hi, Blue. Thank you for joining us today. Blue said that she loves and hates those aha moments. I know exactly what she's talking about. Thank you for sharing that, Blue. Um, in my household, we have talked about religion a whole lot. And my husband happens to have a degree in comparative religion. And he once said that the definition of religion, or the purpose of religion, is to help provide a world ethos, or a sense of ethics, a sense of morality, a sense of purpose to the world around us. And to a large degree, I agree with that from a religious standpoint. From a spiritual standpoint, it's almost like that's our roadmap to where we belong in the world around us. Like, the world is going to exist whether we do or not. But our specific place in the universe, that purpose, that is something that we can get into touch with. And getting into touch with that is gold. That is sheer gold, because that can be a foundation to a whole new beginning, a whole new
Absolutely.
passion. So, what that I mean, that's a good jumping off point to talking about what can a spiritual awakening give you? What can it bring to you? Erica, what do you see in your clients when you help them discover their spiritual powers?
Well, I think, well, let me kind of give you a little background on me. I think you've heard
Yeah.
like people who when they have their spiritual awakening, it can happen in different. It can happen through a trauma. It can happen through. I mean, there's so many ways in which people wake up to this side of them. For me, it was through a death of a friend. So I had a dear friend. He died in 2015, and that was whenever I it was my own awakening and my own idea of what my truth looked like. And with doing that, with understanding my own truth, I had to understand what is it that I believe about myself? What is it that I believe in general? What have my parents and what have my society and what have everyone around me? What have they taught me to believe about myself? So and I think a lot of that comes down to, I've lived in the victim mode. I've lived in that mode of where, where everything was happening to me. And whenever you transition that idea of the world, everything happening to you, to everything's happening for you, it really is a complete shift in no longer being a victim, but you now have purpose. You now have control over your whole life. And so I've been able, and I still fluctuate. I mean, I think all of us do that, right? We've learned in our coaching classes, especially, that we all shift through these different types of energy that we all encompass within us. So when I'm coaching someone and they're going through their spiritual awakening, it is the most confusing thing because who you think you were and who you have always thought you were is you're questioning all of that. Who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And those questions just start to pop up. So as a coach, when someone is coming into their spirituality, it really is just asking them, okay, well then who are you? Let's talk through who you are. Why do you believe these things about you? So empowering questions are just, they're huge because a lot of times we're thinking in our logical mind. We're constantly thinking, but whenever someone's able to ask you a question about who you are and what you believe in, oftentimes we don't really think about that unless we're, someone's asking us that. So yeah, for me, and I know Daniel, we've been friends with this for a while. We've had our coaching sessions and everything, but yeah, it really is just tell me a time when when you've had this experience. Tell me more about that. You just be curious. You want to be curious of people, and I think that that is the biggest thing because a lot of us are not curious about ourselves. We've just accepted that this is who we are.
Yeah, that self-curiosity is so important. When I was a trainer, one of the things that I this epiphany that happened, my aha moment was sitting in at my desk, I remember, and I was considering this conflict where I saw something that someone else didn't see. And I was so frustrated that they couldn't see what I was seeing. And I couldn't communicate it, and they were just shut off to hearing what I was saying. And I had this realization that my perspective, my worldview, my empirical evidence of what's going on in front of me is so limited. It's so limited. I can only see what is within this range of vision for me, you know, right here in this small little cone of vision. And
Yeah,
there's so much
you're Daniel
more
filter.
going on around me that someone sitting across from me can see. And together, we have a more holistic view of the world around us. It wasn't me. I'm a baby to being coached. Blue, you were an awesome client, and I was glad to have you. So, but that limited perspective, that is true on the inside as well. In fact, it's probably more true on the inside, especially when you're talking about just coming into that spiritual awakening. We're taught not to question certain things in life, and some some events pop up, like the death of a loved one, the death of a relative. Sometimes it's having a sexuality that was not what your parents planned on. Sometimes it's getting into a relationship with someone that your parents didn't plan on you getting into a relationship with. It can be all sorts of different things. It could even be moving to a place that you aren't familiar with or that has a completely different culture. Moving to a foreign country or moving to a place that speaks a different language. Those kinds of areas can open up our perspective and make us more aware of what's going on inside. And that in turn can help us be more aware of our spiritual self as well. And that's kind of the first step, is really recognizing who you are, like you said.
Yeah, and I think like just to add on to that, I think a lot of when you start discovering more about yourself, you realize that there are so many right and wrong ways in which someone has defined that for you. We all have our own definition of what is right and what is wrong. I mean, heck, we have our own definition of the meaning of everything. What does power mean to you? What does money mean to you? There's so many, every single topic, we all have our own definition and meaning to it. And so when we're trying to co create together, sometimes there could be resistance because my definition of something is very different than yours. My right and wrong is very different than yours. So it's
Yeah.
trying to live in that gray area versus the black and white. The like this is the
Yeah.
right way, this is the wrong way. To me, I
I,
don't think
I
there's any right and wrong.
yeah, it's like that dress. That was it blue? The dress, is this dress
Yes.
blue or is it orange, or what was the colors? I don't even remember, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there
I
was
know.
a, yeah. Um, so we all see something differently, and the truth is, no one has a perfect view of the world around us. We are not going to have a perfect view of the world around us in this lifetime. And we're just going to get more of the truth as we go, and through self-discovery and through self-awareness. Self-awareness is just key to everything. When I was a trainer, we talked a lot about the Johari window, which is the Johnson Harrison, were two. I don't know if they were sociologists or therapists, but they came up with this concept called the Johari window: blue, black, white, gold dress. Yeah, blue,
There you go.
thanks,
Yeah.
Blue. Um, and the the Johari window, the idea is that you have this paned window, and the panes shift up and down or left and right. And in one quadrant, you have the part of you that you're aware of, and on the other side, you have the part of you that you're not aware of. On that up and down, you have the part of you that other people are aware of and the part of you that other people are not aware of. So that divides it up into quadrants. The less you don't know about yourself, the better the life can be, because the more happiness you can be, the more you can choose activities that bring you joy, the more you can find fulfillment in your life, the more you can find purpose. And spirituality is one of those windows that a lot of us haven't even tried to clean, let alone look through, let alone, move the Johari window on. We don't even want to look through that window because we've been conditioned not to.
Yeah, and I think that that is when and you've been coaching for a while now. When you coach someone to go within, that uncomfortableness has a lot to do with looking at your own emotions, looking at your own emotions and feelings. And I think a lot of us have been living in survival mode, that we use our defense mechanisms. We
Yeah,
deflect, we project, there's that's a natural thing that we do because we don't want to look at ourselves. And I think that that is the biggest hurdle to overcoming and to really even seeing that spiritual side of who you are, is because you don't want to. You don't want to look at yourself. You don't
we've
want to be honest with yourself. You don't
yeah,
want to feel
as
bad.
humans, as humans, we fear the unknown, we fear the dark, we fear what's beyond our firelight. I mean, it makes sense for a large degree that we would expect the worst when we go into a dark cave and we don't know what's in there. But when we're talking about exploring ourselves, there aren't going to be cave bears hiding in the dark waiting to eat us. That's just not how it works on the inside. And the more that we explore fearlessly ourselves, the more that becomes easier, and the easier it is to conquer it. You're right, we do default to survival mode, even when survival isn't necessary. We presume the worst. We go into fight or flight in office situations. Just,
Yeah, and the moment you feel that sensation in your body, all you want to do is run.
yeah,
You want to stop it. You want to say no. I don't
yeah,
want to talk about this. I don't want to look at this. And you
yeah.
deflect. I mean, it's we all do it. And I find myself doing it when I find myself deflecting or projecting or blaming my pain on somebody else. I know that is my red flag to go within and be like, okay. And I'll talk to my
Hmm.
coaches about this. I'll be like, hey, I had this feeling, an emotion. I wanted to dismiss it, which means to me that I want to actually look at it and create space to look at it so that I can find out what that is. That's a nugget. That's like a nugget for me to look at myself. And it's an opportunity. Like, I get excited now when I'm feeling bad. I'm like, what am I learning about myself?
It's a mark of a true coach. You're like, ooh, ooh, something came
What was
up.
that? I
Well,
love
I
it.
think
It's
it also
fun.
helps us with our clients because if we've dealt with it, then it's less scary for us to help our clients deal with it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it does.
that makes sense.
You gotta
Um,
plow through.
so I do think that there are some dark sides with spirituality, and I do think that we should delve into those and talk about them. And this is, I think, where we're going to spend a little bit of time today. Coming into this topic, I shared I have some personal scars. Um, Blue, Blue shared that she realized that she's not really lazy. She just likes star charts in her brain. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I know what she's talking about. She's talking about, rewarding herself for good behavior, that, it's not about laziness, it's about making sure that you're progressing forward. So, for me, coming into this conversation today, I had serious apprehensions about conversations around spirituality because of those well, my spiritual upbringing. I grew up in what is now considered a cult. Um, I didn't think of it at the time as a cult. Looking back at it, it's very clear it was. My mom, who's probably watching this broadcast, and I have had probably a lot of arguments around religion. And so, even opening up and sharing my viewpoints on spirituality, it feels very vulnerable for me. It feels I feel very exposed. I feel very
Naked.
afraid. I feel, yeah, naked. I feel judged.
Yeah.
And on a very primal level, because these are things that are very important to me and 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 fragile and very fragile. Um, but at the same time, it's such an important topic. And it's something that I have worked really hard on in my life. You know, so with regards to um, with regards to the pitfalls around spirituality, I think dogmatic assumption is the biggest pitfall with regards to spirituality, and that would be presuming anyone else believes the same thing or should believe or see the same thing that you have, that other people's truth is the same as your truth. To me, that is the most dangerous pitfall that we could possibly fall into. It doesn't matter if one person believes in a spiritual realm and another person doesn't. It doesn't matter which one is right. What matters is that they both have the freedom to feel those things are both true. To me, that's me.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah. We don't want people to think like us. We want them to, like, we're coaching them to think like themselves. And we
Yeah,
bring a perspective. Like, that's what we're good at, is we bring a perspective because we have explored this side of us. And it's not as scary. So we can have those
yeah,
conversations with people.
yeah. And it is hard work. It is a lot of hard work to explore your spiritual side. So, what do you think are some of the pitfalls within spirituality?
Well, I think the biggest pitfall is really not looking at yourself. And the fear that goes into that, because when we talk about contrast, or we talk about duality and polarity, right? There is a good and an evil, right? But we need both sides in order to grow. And I think that a lot of people just want to focus on the good. They just want to focus on the positives, and I've been guilty of this, of just like, I can think, as long as I think great thoughts, that my life is going to be great. Well, no, there still is the shadow part of me that I'm still learning to love about myself. I've had plenty of trauma in my life that I've brought with me. I bring it into my relationships. I bring it into my present moment. There's a lot of how I show up in the world that my childhood has affected tremendously. And, so I think a lot of that is just really not going there, not understanding, not seeing your own dark side. Because we all have that, right? We all have the dark side. And so, in order to move through the darkness, and in order to move through those darker parts of you, you do have to understand there's nothing wrong with it. So there's no need to be fearful to deflect it or project it, and hide that part of you. So I think the pitfall is really not looking at it, not looking at your ego, not accepting that these are parts of you that affect other people. They hurt other people, and the whole point of moving into your spirituality is seeing that we all are connected. We all are one. We all, when you're hurting, I'm hurting, because we are connect. I mean, I think that's the biggest part of understanding is the unity and the oneness within all of us. So yeah, I would say, definitely, to answer your question, that pitfall is not looking at yourself.
I think it's interesting because I become very aware that a lot of times when I'm doing those kinds of projections or whatnot, I'm trying to make myself not human. I'm trying to hide the things that actually make me a human being, the things that other people are experiencing, the bad emotions, the negative feelings, the weird brain chemistry that everyone experiences at some point in their life. And those things we get ashamed about. And there is no reason to do that other than, whatever social constructs we've created around that. Um, and you're right, becoming aware of your humanity and your spirituality, that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's nothing to hide from. That's nothing to run from. It's just part of the human experience. We're all looking for greater meaning in this world. And when we find it, sharing it can be joyous.
Hmm. Hmm. Without the expectation that anyone needs to believe the same thing you do. Like, it's
Yes.
it's just being able to be authentic unapologetically, right?
Hmm.
And not feeling that judgment, because that's exactly what you were kind of talking about today, when you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be judged, and that's a fearful
Yeah.
way of approaching, anything
Yeah.
really.
Well, and I think that there's a way of sharing your spiritual self without sharing your spiritual beliefs. That you
Yeah.
can show up wholeheartedly and holistically as a whole person, authentically, without holding back. And Erica, I think that might be one of your biggest strengths is I feel like when you are present with me, it is 100% you. And I don't feel like I am always that way. It's something that I've been working on. It's one of my journeys is to just drop the illusions and to be bravely myself, wholly, spiritually even in a public space. So,
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
you're welcome.
I think another thing,
Well,
Daniel, that for this, another word that we've heard is kind of the spiritual bypassing, right? Of just
mm,
like, I think that could be another pitfall, because sometimes, and I've been guilty of this for sure, where I don't look at the things that are not going, that are that see I guess I'm choosing to ignore some parts of me because of this, like, spirituality, like, oh, everything's gonna happen for a reason. And it just is just kind of like, just letting go and letting God is, it's a very powerful thing. But there's also, like, there's things that you ignore about, how you're loving, or how you love others, or how whatever. It's just because if you just think that everything's going to happen, and there's this, that spiritual bypassing, I think that is a way in which you deflect also looking at yourself. If you believe that it's just going to happen and you don't have to
so
do
that
anything about
that
it.
that que sera attitude of it's whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I don't need to put any effort into it. I'm just going to,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That
you
doesn't
know,
matter. That doesn't matter. It's just gonna happen. I'm just floating around and it'll all work out. Like, I mean,
uh-huh,
I do believe it'll all work out, but at the same time, if you're spiritual bypassing every problem that you have, I mean, how are you growing from that? I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. How do you grow? The reason why you grow is because you look within yourself, and then you're able to use that resistance or that guilt or that blame or whatever that darker part of you is to really find more of who you are.
yeah. So, Erica, I have to ask you, what was so you talked about your spiritual awakening with your friend's passing.
Mhm.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway from that section of your life that you'd be willing to share?
Um, I think the biggest takeaway of that is really just to know that I have my own truth. And me finding my own authentic self has been the biggest challenge because I just believe, I've just believed so much in what other people have told me. I just have believed it's just really challenging those belief systems. And I mean, like deep rooted belief systems. Um, so I think a lot of that is really finding who I am through all of that, through all of it, and staying consistent, like knowing that this had happened to me. I tried to explain it to people. When I first started talking about it, I felt crazy. Like I felt crazy. There was a non-physical realm that I tapped into. There was something there, and a lot of times my mind just wanted to logically describe it, like logically be like, no, that didn't really happen. No, it could have been this or it could have been that, and just staying true to knowing my what I experienced and what I've learned from that experience, and the reason why I experienced it. Because ever since I had that experience in 2015, I literally have just really just learned more about my identity. And there's been parts of me that have fallen off. There's been people that have fallen off my radar. There's just like everything transitioned, and it just keeps transitioning. And so I can't get off this train of being authentic. Like it's not going to stop. And so I think just believing and understanding that and accepting myself, and knowing who I am. I think that's the hard part because you're swayed by other people's perception, you're swayed by other people's insecurities. Everyone else is projecting on you as well because this is our mechanism that we do. And so it's hard not to take some of those things personal and then shut yourself down because you feel crazy because it's not normal for everybody else to go through this experience. So I would definitely say just staying true to my authentic self and keep developing more of who I am. What
What
about you?
would you, well, oh, so, I think that I had a spiritual awakening when I was coming out to myself at the age of 16, 17, where I questioned everything I had been taught in my religion and kind of had to create my own spiritual belief system. Um, it was, I actually believe, I define my religion as henotheistic, which is the belief in one set of principles and values without the denial of the belief of others. So, in other words, I practice spirituality in one specific way. My way is not the only way in my belief system. I believe ultimately in faith. I believe in the power of belief, if you will. If you believe it, it's real for you. It's part of your perspective, it's part of your perception. So, of course, it's real. It's going to be just as real as a desk that you can touch, or a microphone you can talk into, or a broadcast you can watch on TV. What's to say that this is even happening? You know? We could question that kind of reality as easily as we could question the reality of a spiritual world or anything else. So to me, my belief in the spirituality is very, very singular to myself. And yet I'm aware that everyone else has that same nature. Um I think I came through a secondary spiritual awakening around 2010. What happened was I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked at myself in the mirror and I hated everything I saw. I had an undiagnosed case of diabetes. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. I had significant health problems. I was unlovable because I chose to be unlovable. Every time I met someone that was a potential love interest, I purposefully pushed them away because I could not stand the thought of anyone possibly loving me. Um, I was in financial debt. I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't get a promotion at work. I didn't have any sense of purpose. You know, I didn't have a reason for existing. And I discovered positive neuroscience at a convention for training, and I fell in love with it because it gave me the ability to create real happiness and real change in my life through really simple actions like power posing and goal setting and celebrating our goals, which we talked about in our last broadcast. Um, those kinds of things can make real lasting change in our lives. And it's like a spirituality for me now. I believe in it so strongly that it's gone beyond just the neuroscience that, science suggests is true, to something that is spiritually powerful for me as well. It's a part of my practice now. So yeah, I think that, and within 3 months I had completely changed that story. I got a promotion at work. I met my husband. I went on a dating site and I found the man that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. I, you know, my whole life turned around completely. I got out of debt. I got a doctor. My diabetes was controlled with diet. I started my weight loss journey. I'm 100 pounds lighter now than I was at that point. And I did it the hard way.
The perfect way for you, Daniel.
It was the perfect road for me. But it doesn't have to be that way. And it all starts with personal discovery. It all starts with that self-identity. It all starts with that look in the mirror at who you are. Who you want to be is part of that. Because who you want to be tells you a lot about who you are supposed to be in this universe. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, then you're not living the purposeful life that you were meant to live.
Absolutely. That's yeah, and I've heard a lot about a lot of your struggles and the way that how you've gotten to where you're at right now, which is just really cool because that's what you can share with others. Like I know that you've gone through it, so you've been able to experience how to go from here to here, how to go from a victim to, feeling in control of your life, feeling like you know what you're doing and it feels good to wake up purposeful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've waking up and it's been like, oh, I hate, I don't want to go to work today or I don't want to do this today, versus then having a different perspective and waking up and feeling purposeful that no matter what, whoever you run into during the day is, it's purposeful. Like you can have conversations with people, you can just, it's all random, but it works out perfectly. So I don't know. I've heard a lot of your stories, which are just they're powerful. Just the things that you've moved through.
Likewise, coach. Well, at this point, I do want to let our audience know that we do take live guests. If any of you would like to get coaching, you are welcome to let us know that that's what you would like. You can join our Discord. There's a link below this video in the information below here. If you're on a mobile app, you may have to go to a computer in order to do that. Once you've joined our community, you can reach out to me personally, and I will do my best to promote you and bring you in for a live coaching session. Coaching sessions are subject to the information below with regards to the limitations that we can do here live streaming. Um, and that said, we will be repeating some of the content that we've covered so far today, but I'm sure we'll say it in different ways, and we would love to have you continue on with us today in this journey. So thank you so much, audience, for being part of this story with us today. So Do you have anything to add to that, Erica?
No, I appreciate it. And I love watching you, go live with all of it. I'm learning so much from you just by being a part of your, being a guest speaker on here. So I appreciate you. Thank you for leading by example. And, I love watching how you can make a difference as well, because that inspires me to continue to believe in myself. Like the work that we're doing and the things that we're learning and the people that we come in contact with to grow together. We have this wonderful coaching community too that we can just tap into. So it's
Yeah.
been a blessing just
You
meeting.
know, we may have been put together through the IPEC community, but I think that we were meant to be friends. So,
Yeah, that's what I told you. I was like, the first time I met you, I was like, why did the universe bring us together, Daniel? I'm really excited to hear about this. And the more I coach you, the more I'm coaching myself, because there's so many, like we're going through the kind of the same energy, like we're kind of moving through the same energy. So it just feels like when I'm talking to you about a topic that you're struggling with, I'm like, great, I either had just gone through this, I'm going through it now, or it's just you're such a mirror of me every single time. So it's great
oh,
because when you
you
grow,
know,
I
as
grow.
yeah. Well, and Blue is thanking me for insight, and it's always an eye opener. This guy is way too lovable. Thank you very much, Blue. That is very kind of you to say, and you are lovable as well. I will say this: I think that part of my spiritual journey is to become a coach because I learn so much more about myself through my clients. I feel like there, if I look from session to session to session, there is usually a theme in a week. And that theme is usually something that I need to take in and take a lesson from because there's usually something there for me. Sometimes it's about goal setting. Sometimes it's about, being more disciplined in my behaviors. Sometimes it's about spiritual journeys. There are all sorts of different lessons that I can learn, and I learn very, very much from my clientele. So I very much appreciate them and their journey. It sounds like you're having a similar experience in your coaching journey as well.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It brings me a ton of bliss. And what I also notice, there's patterns. We all have the same patterns
Hmm.
of not feeling loved enough, not feeling enough, not feeling worthy. Not I mean, we all have it. And so it's like being able to use each other and work with each other in order to move through it. It's just so powerful. Like the feeling I get when someone finds themselves or someone finds something. It does
You know,
something to my
that's
body.
that's an interesting thing about a spiritual journey. So, kind of we're going off script here. We don't really actually have a script. We just have a couple of topics that we want to make sure we cover. But um, when we talk about imposter syndrome a lot, I think, in society today. And imposter syndrome occurs when you're in a position and you doubt your own credibility. And you may get a lot of external validation, you may have plenty of internal validation to justify that position, but you still doubt it. It's not enough. I think that spirituality might be an answer to that issue because if you can find a purpose in what you're doing, it doesn't matter if you're qualified to do it because it's what you were meant to do. So,
Yep.
what's the point of even questioning whether or not you're qualified to do it? That's spiritual, and that I don't know where that thought came from, but sometimes they're good when they come out of my mouth, and sometimes they're bad. I think that one was pretty good. What do you think, Erica?
That's what I like to do. Yes. Snaps. Yes, that is totally true because we hold ourselves back. Like we're the only ones who need to get out of the way and just let what your purpose is. Like go with the flow, go into the unknown, go into that uncomfortable space. Quit living in the familiar because that's where just because it's comfortable, we've done it before so many, so long in our lives. It's time to shift into what's uncomfortable because that's the part where you learn about yourself.
We didn't do a whole lot of talking about this, but is there any advice you could give someone who was maybe a little bit worried about hiring a coach, but wanted to kind of start their own journey for spirituality? What is one thing that they could do to kind of help bring about more spiritual awareness?
I think the first thing is understanding. Okay, well, the first step is wanting to be aware, right? So
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
to be aware. You really want to see this part of you. The second part of it is really understanding. It's understanding that the thoughts that come through are not all yours. There are a lot of you have a lot of. We live in our subconscious programs 95% of the time. And so when you're actually conscious, you're not thinking. When you're conscious, you're observing your thoughts. So to become the observer of your thoughts, and this is really where spirituality, the way that I can bridge spirituality is that you are going beyond the mind, which means you are observing what you are saying, what you are doing, how you're reacting. And in a lot of what I teach with my clients and a lot of my YouTube videos that I have is really breaking down what the components of reality. So that and everything stems from your belief system, right? If you believe it, it is your reality. That is how you are showing up. That's what you believe in. You're attracting the people that you believe them to be. So in order to understand your beliefs, you got to break it down. Your beliefs, you got to understand what your words are. You got to understand what the definitions to your words are. You got to understand what thoughts are coming in. So it's just really this cycle of observation.
Mm.
And that's what I like to help people understand is that you are not the thoughts. And you know what? Sometimes when you have that negative person in your ear, that could have probably been your father when he was scolding you or disciplining you when you were 9 years old and you're still telling yourself that same story. So be aware of your stories, be aware of your words, and I see the world through energy. So for me, I can, words matter because the words are so powerful to me where if you're constantly saying negative things about yourself, which I think is a lot of us, right? We're programmed to talk about the negativity, talk about what we're not good enough at, talk about why we're not there. So really just to understand and observe. I think it's just go into observation mode. And if you need help with that, I'm your girl. But I think
Absolutely.
that is the most important part. That's where I started. So that's
Yeah.
obviously that's what I'm teaching is because that's what has been beneficial for me to figure out what techniques have I used to see my identity, figure out what it is that is this true? Question it, and then redefine it. So really just pluck your belief systems, and then you can always reprogram what you don't want. So it's not as easy as it sounds, but it definitely it can happen. You can do it.
I think that you bring up a great point about not all of your thoughts are your own. We do inherit some of those thoughts. We bring them along with them. We drag them along everywhere we go as baggage. We also create them. We create limiting beliefs to hold ourselves back in our comfort zone. And if you're in your comfort zone, you're not growing, you're not changing, you're not evolving, you're not becoming a better version of yourself. And if you've done that, you might as well just go to the finish line of life, which is not a great place to go. It's not the point. The whole point of life is not the end point. That's not where we want to be. But you might as well be there if you're in your comfort zone because there's not a whole lot for you there. Um, but you know, I think one of the things that I would add to your suggested starter kit, I guess, is values. To look at what it is in your life that really matters, that you couldn't live without. If it was gone, you would be devastated. Your stomach would twist in knots. Those things, those are part of the purpose of you being on this planet. And in not taking those things for granted and living and really accepting those things and loving those things and honoring those things, those are or people that
Yeah.
can be really important. Can be very important in
Yeah, and
that
to
journey.
understand, the values. I mean, the values, when you understand your values, that those are your boundaries, right? Those are what you
Yeah.
are absolutely not going to give up. And so and for me, so I ordered some, or one of my friends, Erin, actually, she ordered me some there's value cards on Amazon that you can get. And there's like 300 words on these cards. And so the
Oh,
girls and I we were doing. I was like, I was trying to figure out what my values were because through IPEC they have you
yeah.
explore who you are and what yourself is, what it is that's true for you. So we went through these cards, and we had, I won't tell you how many bottles of wine we went through, but we all got we all got to identify our top three values of like what it is that we're most passionate about. So I found mine. Mine is community, love, and authenticity. You should have seen the
Hmm.
cards that I ended up putting away because these were my values. Like these were the parts of me. And so starting my business, that is exactly what I started out with was what is my vibe? My vibe is love, community, and authenticity. And I will not deviate outside of any of those. And those are what helped me make me understand here's my purpose, here's my vibe, here's what I came here to do is to love, to be authentic, and then to establish community amongst me. And those three things bring me so much passion. But yes,
Oh,
your values, values,
that
values, those are,
that sounds like an awesome activity. I'm gonna go look at those cards and see what they look like.
oh my
That
gosh,
sounds
do it.
awesome.
Yes. There's so many words you can choose from, and you'd be surprised the ones that you put away. And like I've done them twice now, and the same three ones are the ones that I picked. But depending on where you're at in your life and what has changed and what has shifted, your values can shift. They can shift into something where you're like, okay,
Yes.
great, this is more important to me now in my stage of life where I'm at, and it's okay for them to
Yes.
shift. Like that's important.
We grow as people spiritually and physically and emotionally. Our needs change, our purpose changes. It's not going to be the same from the 20s as it is to thank you so much for the follow, A. Douglas. Thank you so much. That is so awesome. We're very grateful to have you on this channel. So, but we grow and change. Again, if you're not growing and you're not changing, you're not improving, you're stagnant. Head for that finish line, you know? That
The constant in life is change.
yeah,
I think
we
that's
you
what
know,
you're
we
experiencing in our
I
society
think we
too.
need to take a lesson from sharks. They have to keep swimming forward in order to breathe, and yet we pause and hold ourselves back so often.
That's a good way to put it.
So let's kind of head backwards. Let's roll it. Well, actually, you know what? We're 15 minutes in. I do want to take a 5 minute break, and then when we come back, I want to kind of roll back the topic back to defining what spirituality is. So I do want to take a quick 5 minute break here. Um, give my voice a rest, give Adrian's voice a rest, give her a chance to visit the restroom or whatever she needs. Thank you guys so much for being here. Again, if you would like to join us for live coaching, we would love to have you. All you need to do is be a member of our Discord community. You can find information on how to join Discord below. You do need that program installed on a device, either your phone or computer with a working microphone. You don't need a video. Um, and then once you're installed, send me a message in Discord and I will invite you into this room, promote you, and you can get some live coaching and we can help you work on your purpose or whatever you would like. So, with that said, we're going to take a break and I will see you in. Oh, hold on. Blue, before you take your break, I need to have me time and sleep. Have a great stream. Oh, Blue, give my love to Luce, and you have a great evening. Thank you so much for being part of our stream today. Thank you, and good evening. Okay, we're going to take our break. See you in a little bit. Okay, we are back, and that was a nice little break. I went outside, got a nice breath of fresh air. Thank you for letting us take that quick break, and also thank you, Come on, Toya. Probably said that completely wrong. Sorry about that, but thank you so much for the follow. We are very glad to have you as part of our community. I am here with Erica Koelling. She is an amazing spiritual coach, and she is here to talk about spirituality with us here on Game Changer, where we want everyone to find the best version of themselves. So, with that said, Erica, welcome back.
Thank you.
And let's start back at the very beginning so that we can kind of refresh ourselves. What does spirituality mean?
Spirituality, going beyond the body mind, going beyond, looking within. I think Daniel, you tell me when you talk about turning in with people, like when you say go within, what does that mean to you? Like when you go within, how do you even describe that?
Hmm. So I think of it as deep down inside. It's our spiritual guidance system. It's our sense of morality. It's our sense of right and wrong. It's our sense of rightness in the world. It's that it's our instinct. It's our soul, if you will. It's the how you know you're in the right place. Um, I think that there is so much to us. I don't think that there are firm barriers between what is mind, what is body, and what is soul. I think that those barriers are very blurred. In fact, I think that the more you go in depth into researching and recognizing this, the more whole we become as a person, and the less likely you're going to even know what those barriers are. So at this point, I'm not even sure I know where what, where the spiritual is versus the emotional, because those two things are so tied together for me. Um, but but yeah, it really is it really is answering the question, what is my purpose in life? What is the reason that I am here on this rock at
Yep.
this time
At this
in this
time,
place with
bingo.
these people,
Yes.
you know? Why am I friends with Erica? What is that spiritual purpose? What is that bringing me? What is it that Erica is going to get from me? That is part of the spiritual question, right?
Mhm. Win-win. It is the win-win, and that brings you to the. I think another good word for that would be self-realization, right?
Yeah.
And that allows you to have that self-empowerment to stay true to what you believe in, whether you believe in aliens, whether you believe in if there's a God or not, whether you believe in whatever that is that you believe in, that really is your foundation of your own trust within yourself. So I love the word self-realization because that's
Mm,
really my definition of turning in, going in, looking at it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And as you know, at the beginning of the program, I made the joke that it's like the GI Joe ad of knowing is half the battle. Once you've done that self realization, then it is followed by self actualization. It's making that the reality that you're living. Because it's one thing to know what your purpose is, it's another thing to adopt it and to accept it and to live it.
Yes.
Um, you could be meant to be an artist, you could be meant to be a, uh, a sorry, I see a question popped up in our Discord channel, and I think that that's a great question. We'll answer here in just a moment, Adrian. Thank you for asking it. Um, and if you want to join in, you can also chat with us on Discord. So, um, but putting it into action, once you've learned that, you would think that that would be easy because it would feel right. But it could be a completely life-altering decision. It might take you a complete different direction. You might lose a friend. You never know what would happen.
Never
You never
know.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's living in the
S-
unknown. Again, living in the unknown. Not it's okay to not know. It's okay to not know and feel that the guidance as to whenever you need to take a right or need to take a left or need to go to the grocery store where you meet some random person who ends up being the answer to something that you've been looking for. Like it's again, I look at life in energy and frequencies, and that's a lot of what the non-physical world that I live in is because I know if I put something out there, I can trust that I'm going to attract it because of who I am, because of what my purpose is, because of what my intention is for being this coach, for being, I like coaching, public speaking, presenting, teaching, like any of that. I just want to like bundle it up in and just be that. And so I'm anxious and curious to see how I transform, like where I am being led, because I feel
yeah.
like I'm putting things together and they're coming, but I honestly have no idea what's next. It's just like being on your podcast. Like I had no idea until, I didn't know I was going to be doing this, but so it's really cool just to trust and
I
go
barely
with
knew.
it's good. I was
So
so
I do.
excited when you asked me. I was like, yes, of course I will.
Yeah. Well, I do need a guest for the 23rd. So if you're available.
For what? Wait, you cut out on that one. Sorry. Or
Oh,
was
well, it's okay. Well, we can chat about it later. I just made a joke. Kind of. Kind of
okay.
serious, but Adrian asked in our chat here, how does spirituality make you feel, and how does reality make you feel? Are those separate concepts or do they work together? Spirituality versus reality. Those are great questions.
Oh,
And
great
I
question.
think that the first answer that I would have is it's going to be different for every person. That is going to be part of it. You know, I could answer for me,
Do it.
but I think that if you do the spiritual work, it does become part of your reality because it's part of your viewpoint, it's part of your world belief, it's part of your worldview because it's part of you. You're accepting part of yourself that's always existed, that's always been there. No one is telling you spiritually what you were meant to be, who you were meant to be. So it's really a matter of just identifying it, fermenting it, if you will, and then accepting it. And then once that is done, it should be seamless with reality. Reality probably becomes easier.
Yeah, less painful for sure. And I would definitely say that too. I think they correlate very well together because as your spirituality changes or as you learn about more of who you are, your whole reality changes. I mean, the people that you attract, the jobs that you attract, the next steps, the anything. It just your whole reality will change as you explore this spirituality, like the spiritual part of who you are, because you're no longer believing in certain beliefs and you're actually recreating things that you do believe in, that you want to believe in, that is more, it's healthier for your life to feel loved. It's healthier for your life to feel purposeful versus victim versus, that life is happening to me. So I think they go hand in hand together. It's just the way, I think it's just the way that the idea of what they both mean to you. But it is essentially how you show up in life, how you show up every single day.
Yeah.
Good question,
Hmm.
Adrian.
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much for asking it. That was just a brilliant question. So, going back to defining what spirituality is, I think there's this concept of um, maybe feeling a little limited if we accept who we were meant to be. And that can be a kind of a scary thing. What if I was meant to be a janitor and that isn't fulfilling? Well, that's not how it works. Your purpose is going to be fulfilling. It's going to be something that you're driven for, that you're passionate by. It's not going to be something that you're scared of. And it's going to be something that's easy to accept because it's going to be true. It's going to be right. It's going to feel good to discover. It might be a little painful to discover. Um, because you'll be flexing muscles you haven't used before.
Yes, that's a good
But
way to put it.
I think that we are also not limited just to that. We do have some influence over our spiritual beliefs. We can choose what those are to some degree. Would you agree with that, Erica?
I think your inner power is all about the power to decide. I have a 4-year old son, so I always teach him, I let him make decisions because I want him to trust that he can make decisions, that he knows what he wants. He knows, and I'm telling you, my son knows what he wants, and that is
I bet.
my husband and I empower that very much just to say, or he'll make a decision. It's like, good job making a decision, dude. You're great at making decisions. I think it's just a powerful tool because then you're absolutely saying yes to something and
Hmm.
you have the power to choose. You can always change your mind. I think that's the biggest part too. Just because you have bought into something at some point in your life and you've accepted it, you have the power to change what that looks like for you. For you, not for just anyone else. If this is for you to empower yourself, to have that more of that self realization. So
Yeah.
the power to choose, yeah, that's one of my things that I love teaching.
And then, to tag on to that, spirituality and religion are so tied together. With religion, it's all about the morality, the ethos, the dogma that other people are telling you to believe religiously. Spirituality, on the other hand, is very internal. It's how you choose to show up. It's how you were meant to show up. It's who you were meant to be. It's accepting your seat at the table that that has your little name card that is specifically going to be catered to your dietary needs, and it's going to be the most delicious meal that you've ever had. And the only way that you're going to find that seat is if you do the work to find it, you know? So, does that make sense? That is a weird
I love it.
analogy.
No, I love it. I love it. I always get little nuggets out of your analogies and your realisms. I'm surprised you haven't talked about any of your realisms today, or your
Oh,
truisms.
yeah.
Truisms. I love
Truisms. Well,
those.
I do have a truism around spirituality, and that is power is what you believe. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which was, in my personal belief system, I believe in faith. I believe that whatever someone believes is real for them because it is real for them. That is how faith works. If
Hmm.
you believe in spirits, then spirits are going to be real and you're going to find ways that spirits are real for you. It does not matter what I think. It does not matter what I believe. It matters what you believe because you're perceiving them, you're experiencing them. Um, and, all human beings, all humans on Earth have an ethos that they adopt. Well, maybe there's a few sociopaths out there who don't. But generally speaking, human beings as a species have an ethos each individual adopts. Those ethoses are not necessarily the same. So if religion is the purpose is to give every single human being the same ethos, spirituality is to identify what your ethos is and how it fits in that greater scheme. So,
That is part of your unique, what we call the unique blueprint. Like we all
yeah.
have our own unique blueprint that we came here to express. It's your own self-expression that you're learning about. And how are you going to use that self-expression to give back and to help service others and to help people with their suffering, right? Like right now, God, this is such an awesome time and space to be a part of. And as a coach, and I think Daniel, you would agree with this because we have a whole network and a whole community of coaches, and all of us have that same passion of just helping someone with their suffering. And to me,
Yeah.
that's what being successful is. If I can help you with, with understanding more of how to not how you learn not to suffer anymore, that's like success to me. And that's what drives me to want to be in this, continue to do this work, continue to move towards this, um, I guess, this community of coaching.
We keep running our heads into the brick wall rather than using the door right next to where we're hitting our head. Yeah, and I think coaches just kind of help you move over to the side a little and open the door yourself and walk through, and then find the next wall and then find the door for that wall. Yeah, I think so. My analogies, my metaphors, my stories, They all come from my time as a trainer. And um, when I was a trainer, part of my spiritual self, my spiritual actualization was the aha moment, that moment in which someone had a greater realization that they were capable of doing something they thought was impossible, or that they got this complicated bit of information that they felt like they had no hope of assimilating, and then they got it. They were able to do it. They were able to do it on their own, and they were able to follow the instructions precisely and get it right. That was like crack for me.
Yes, it
And as
is.
a coach, we get that same aha moment, but on, I mean, it's next level.
Yeah.
It's next level. And it's just great. So I really do feel like this is my spiritual path. This is the path that I was meant to walk. So when we look at our clients, what are some signs that someone is on a spiritual journey of awakening, that they're looking for that spiritual awakening?
They're ready. They are ready to stop suffering. I think that you
Yeah.
just have to get it is the when you hit rock bottom, right? It's just you have to be tired of being sick and tired. And so I
Mhm.
think that that is when you're ready and you're ready for help. You're ready to look at something different. You're ready to try something different. So I think that the confusion of who am I? Why am I here? Why do I feel purposeless? Like just living in their victim, like and being able to provide awareness to them that they're living in those lower energies. And again, we fluctuate through all the energies ourselves, so we're always
Mhm.
there in the victim energy. Like we get there in anger, we're in anger, but we like to shift through the energies. So as coaches, what we've learned through IPEC, which is really cool, is to identify when someone is in that lower energy and how to shift them up to another energy of either from victim to anger, because anger is a less dense energy than what victim is. And then if you want to move that up to peace and joy, or it's just really cool to watch people's energies transition within a session. So it definitely would be just if they want it, they have to be ready. They have to be tired of being sick and tired of the
Yeah.
same patterns of their life.
They have to be willing to address that victim story if they are in that victim mode, because you can't, we make other people the villain in our story all the time. It's a lot easier than accepting a reality in which there is no villain,
Right.
because there's not going to be a hero to come save us if that's the truth. And I like to instead think of my clients as heroes in their own regard. They just have to find their power. Thank you so much for the follow, Maui Haley. It is so awesome to have you as part of our community today. Thank you so much. So, with that said, finding your superpower, finding your strengths, finding your purpose, finding your powers, that just, why wouldn't you want that? And then once you find it, it becomes mildly addicting, and you kind of go
Want
through that
more?
path. Yeah, you want more, you want to discover all of them. Um, that can lead to some trouble, some burnout, some spiritual burnout even. Um, but I don't think I can think of a single reason not to ask yourself, what is my purpose here on earth? Can you think of a reason?
Yeah, I mean, if people, I can't. I couldn't think of anything because I mean that's what we all want a desire to be purposeful, and I think there's innately we all have that desire to help others, regardless of your job or where you strive for. Like there's always it feels good to help somebody else, help a neighbor, help someone do something. So we already have that innately in us. So what is it that you want to hone in on for your purpose? What is it that and I always ask that question. I love that you use the word superpower because I also work for corporate America in a consulting position, so I've traveled a lot, and one of my favorite parts of traveling is the airport bar because I get to meet random people and then they learn so much about themselves. It's just like those 5 to 10 minute conversations of just like having a drink with them or asking them about their story and then walking away from this complete stranger where they just got one of those aha nuggets because they learned what their superpower was. Like, what is their bliss? What is the superpower? What is it that brings you joy to do what you want to do every day? And I think the biggest part that we do as coaches is we help our clients understand where they're being blocked. What are the assumptions? What are those limited beliefs? What is it that they are telling themselves that is preventing them from living that purpose? And we help
Yeah.
each other out with that so much just by being able to understand that. So I think
You know,
it's
yeah, and
beautiful.
coaches are such a powerful. We're a third party medium. We don't have an agenda in terms of what we think you should be coming away from our session with. You get to decide what you're going to come away with from the session. And, you know, there is no other profession on earth that could compare to it that I can think of. It's just amazing to me that I get to do this every day. So, yeah, I love it. I'm in love with coaching.
Me too. I know. That's how you know. That's how you know you're in the right spot, right? And
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
are
That's part of
evolving.
your it's part of the spiritual question. That's part of my purpose. That's how I know that I was meant to do this. That's part of my spirituality. That is a guiding principle that helps me be in the right place at the right time. We talk about that all the time. You just need to be in the right place at the right time. Well, how do you do that? Discover more about yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll
Be,
happen.
be curious. Be curious about yourself. Be less
Yeah.
critical and more curious.
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
that's a 101 for even relationships. Like that's you want to be curious about other people, not criticize them. I mean that's like leading with love right there is
Yeah.
understanding what is your story. Why are you the way that you are right now, which is perfect, right? We're all perfectly imperfect. So I think admitting to that, and then also for I know, like you said, Daniel, and we've had this with a lot of our other colleagues with coaches or our other coaching colleagues, is that imposter syndrome because
Oh, yeah.
even though you know that this is your passion, there's that part of you that is just like, is it my passion? Am I good enough? Am I good enough to be a coach? Do I have enough clients? Do I have like so it's just that like we all go through it too. I mean,
It's
all of
funny
the
that you should say that because IPEC became kind of a spiritual thing for me. I came into this thinking I was going to be a consultant for businesses. I didn't think that my purpose in life was going to be a life coach. I thought I was going to be a business coach for small businesses. And I came walking away realizing that I have to work on the whole person. I have to be a whole Daniel with people. I can't bring part of the pie to the picnic and feel like I did a good job. I have to bring the whole pie to the picnic to feel like I am participating. And bringing the whole pie means being a life coach first. So when I am a business consultant, what I bring is life coaching. When I coach businesses, I coach their staff from the bottom up. I help them define what their values are and I help them attach those values to the work that they find. That brings them more enjoyment and engagement in work and brings them more fulfillment. And that is a spiritual journey. It doesn't have to just be religious, chanting, that kind of thing. Spirituality can be so much more. That's why I'm so passionate about it. You brought up
It
IPAC.
does not have to look. It does not have to look one way whatsoever.
No, no,
Whatsoever.
and
You don't
each
have to
person's
spend.
journey is going to be different.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you, Daniel. What are some of your spiritual practices that maybe you want to do more of, or that you find work for you to kind of get you aligned during the day and ready to start your day?
So, one of the things that I find incredibly helpful are just quick, I call them, minute calming sessions. I don't even really have a word for them, but they're basically like quick grounding sessions where I close my eyes, I take a deep breath, I find my center inside of myself. It's something that I'm practiced at, and it is essential for me, especially when I'm coming into a new client meeting, so that I'm showing up as a blank slate and not, carrying along all the baggage from whatever happened beforehand. Um, that is something that has taken a few months to develop, and I'm still
Yes,
working
yeah.
on it. I think that in terms of my my spiritual beliefs, one of the things that I've been working on and that I definitely feel like I can do a better job of is letting go of my intentions. And this is an idea that Oprah kind of shared in her master class. I don't entirely. It's something I heard. It stuck with me. It keeps coming back to me, and it's
Ooh.
meaningful to me. So, what she talked about is a story about her getting the role in The Color Purple, where she really wanted this role. It was the entirety of her universe of what she focused on, what she wanted on, and she held on to it tight, and she did everything in her power to get it, and she got denied. She was in The Color Purple, but the story was she was not the first choice. She was devastated, and she remembers sitting in her porch in the background, and I think she was looking up at the stars, and she just let go, and she says, okay, this is what was not meant to be. So whatever was meant to be, let it happen. She let go of her intentions, and literally, I don't know if it was minutes or hours or a day or whatnot, but very short period of time later, she was called up and handed the role that she had wanted that whole time. So I think letting go of my intentions is important. So whether that's through prayer or meditation or whatnot, that's very personal to me, and I don't necessarily feel comfortable sharing that out loud. But letting go of those intentions and letting the universe have them once I've set them, I think that that is something that I want to focus on and work on a little bit going forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is a great topic too, because when we talk about letting go, right? The whole idea of letting go is having that trust that it is like things are going to happen. Like you do have intentions, you do set like structures. They say like energy structures, the way that you're thinking, the way that you're, the way that you're approaching life and the way that you're moving, but when you let go, you have no expectation of outcome. And therefore, you can't you no one can really no one can really make you feel any type of way if you don't have the expectation. You're just kind of moving through life, and you just know that you're there for a purpose. You're there, it's the energy that you bring. That's how I always say, this is your energy that you bring. What's your vibe that you bring to a room, and what are your expectations? If you have none, then you're just that's the whole concept of letting go. Just letting things happen. And I mean, that's helped me a ton, just because I'm not disappointed. It's not, there's like no disappointments as far as what's my vision of how it's supposed to look and how did it turn out. I mean, it feels much easier to move through life without having the expectation of what it's supposed to look like.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I do love the let go concept of learning that, because that's been a hard one for me. I think that's hard for humans, I would say.
So Common Toya, sorry, again butchered the name. I'm so sorry. Said powerful letting go. Thanks for sharing. And then Adrian in our Discord said, Daniel, can you please share how it feels to let go? Is that the same feeling you have with spirituality? Hmm.
Good question.
Well, Adrian, I'm going to be just frank with you. It's something I'm struggling to do right now. It's something that I want to be better at. I think I know what it feels like, but I don't know because I'm not masterful at it yet. It feels a lot like what Erica was talking about with trust, where you put your energy and efforts and struggles into it. There's a quote. I don't know. It's not biblical, but it's associated with religion of God helps those who help themselves. Doing everything in your power to make it real. But at some point, you can't control the world around you, and trusting that you've done everything within your power to see it happen and the universe is going to choose which direction it's going to go, or God is going to choose, or whatever higher power you believe in is going to choose. That is the letting go that I'm talking about. And I have no idea what it feels like because I can't do it yet, but I'm trying. I want to.
There's the honesty. See, there's the self realization. You
Yeah.
go into that. We'll focus on that in our next coaching then.
Yeah. Yeah, help me work on that, Erica. Have you been able to do that successfully, letting go?
You know what? I have embraced my authentic self, and it is the trust. It is trusting that no matter what, that it's happening the way it's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
what I has seen, what I think some of my roadblocks and not letting go is not seeing what I guess the conflicts as being positive. Anytime I look at a conflict in my life and I'm not seeing the positivity out of it, where I'm growing from it, that's when I get stuck. I can essentially get stuck because I stay in that frequency and I'm feeling sorry for myself, or I'm something's wrong, and I sit there and just chime. When I can realize that, like, okay, I'm going through a conflict right now in my life, I know that I trust that there is a reason why I'm going through this conflict, and that's me observing myself going through the conflict. And that
Mm.
way I can just let go. I don't have to resolve anything. I'm just letting go. I'm observing. That way I can figure out what it is that the information or the lesson I'm plucking from this
You
experience,
know,
essentially.
that is a good point because I do think that I've had that experience of where you've experienced a conflict and you've stepped out of the conflict. You've taken a deep breath, you've looked at it from a third person's perspective, you've gotten some extra perspective that you wouldn't normally have from your normal spot that you're sitting in. And I have had that experience frequently, honestly. I So I guess that, to go back to that, yes, I have let go, but just not with everything. Not things, not things I want to bring into my life, but more so with things I want to get rid of.
Yes. Or your patterns, right? What are your patterns? That's one of the things I ask my clients whenever I'm talking to someone. I'm like, okay, if they don't have a topic that they want to come out, it's like, okay, what are
Oh,
your recent patterns? What are your patterns of conflict? What are your patterns? Are you attracting the same type of people who treat you a certain way? Are you
mm,
like, be aware of your patterns, because that would be an easy first step to be like, this constantly is happening to me. Why am I attracting this? What is, and then ask yourself those questions. Well, what do I believe in that makes, this be true in my life? And patterns. I think that's a good, and letting go of patterns once you're aware of them. That's the
yeah,
hard part, right?
it is, and it takes time and it takes dedication and effort.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's discipline in that, just to
There's
stay
that
there.
word again.
Discipline, yes.
Um, let's talk about those pitfalls again. So, for anyone who wasn't here when I shared my personal story, I grew up in a cult. So my religious upbringing came from a place that was very harmful, very hurtful, and the message that I got was who I am as a person, who I needed to accept myself as, was not acceptable according to the principles and ethos of the world that I was told I needed to live in. Um, it's not okay to be gay in the church I grew up in. I'm gay. I couldn't do anything about that. And coming to terms with that sexuality made me question absolutely everything that I was told to believe. I picked and chose what I came away with from that. I created my own ethos and morality around the things that were true for my religion. Things like not judging other people. That's very important to me. Um, things like, well, anyway, it doesn't really matter. I created my own belief system by testing whether or not I felt what was being taught to me was true or not true. Was it dogma that I didn't need to take with me, or was it really true for my spirituality? Picking up and trying on each of those was a painful process, and it took years and years to do. And after a while, I grew scar tissue with regards to spirituality, and spirituality became something I could not share with other people. That was a topic that I couldn't breach in a conversation with other human beings. It became something that was so uncomfortable to talk about, even with my close friends. In fact, I don't think that I've talked about it with another human being other than my husband, other than Erica, for 25 years, maybe, other than arguing about it. And and that it wasn't a great place. I needed to heal from it. So this has been a very difficult topic for me to come about it. And I realized that one of the pitfalls of discovering my own spirituality is that there is some harm that can come from accepting at some point in your life that dogmatic assumption that everyone's belief system, that everyone's sense of morality should be exactly the same, that everyone's belief system should be exactly the same, that it's one size fits all, which we all know is a lie. There is no such thing as one size fits all. I
No.
guarantee you, it will not fit me.
Well, you're unique. That's why.
Yeah. So, with regards to that, that is a very extreme example of a dogmatic assumption, a cult, and a very controlling one that, infects the world and changes the world that you're supposed to live in and controls the way that you live in it. But to to some degree, every religion does that to some degree. They tell you what is right and wrong, and you adopt what is right and wrong. That's not always bad. There are some dogmas that are very healthy, like murder is a terrible thing. I would tend to agree with that. That might be a universal one. But
Yes,
do
let's
you
talk.
need someone else to tell you that, or can you find that within yourself, within your own spirituality? And that's the difference, is that assumption that everyone else's belief is the same as yours. That's what I would like to see people avoid going forward with regards to this topic. That's my number one pitfall.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that plays into the whole idea of peace, right? Of having peace,
Yeah,
everyone having their own truth, everyone having their own way of looking at life, and that being okay. That being okay
yeah,
to be vulnerable and share that without feeling judged, without feeling you're doing something wrong or bad. I
mhm,
think that is our the biggest pitfall there is believing in something that is bad to other people, or that believing something that someone else doesn't approve of, or it's just like holding yourself in these limited beliefs because other people are not, they don't see the things the way that you do. And
yeah,
so that's such a, it's such a, and I've been there. I think we've all been there, because if you're unique in any way, or you understand who you are more, like the more you understand who you are, the more that you're probably going to trigger other people around you, because you're going to challenge belief systems because you now know what you believe in. You're going to challenge, the way that someone may look at something, not by in a way of saying that they're wrong or right, but just by having that conversation of, oh great, wow, that's how you look at that. That's cool. Let me share with you what I've learned about myself and how I see that, and then just accepting it and accepting other people for who they are. I mean, I think that
yeah.
that's where a lot of the
It's
conflict comes
huge.
from. Yeah.
If we could do that as a society, we would solve all of the problems. But there's a limit to what you and I can do as coaches. We'll tackle them one client at a time. How's that sound?
Yeah, you got to be the
So
change that you want to see in the world, right? You got to be
one
it.
of the yeah, one of the pitfalls that you talk about that you talked about earlier was kind of that fear to look at yourself because of the wounded parts of yourself, that you have a defense mechanism that's getting in the way. Can you tell me more what that looks like in someone, or what that might look like? Could you give us maybe an example?
Yeah, I think the most common thing. Well, I'm going to go with mine because this is. I mean, these are things that I've been able to observe about myself. Is I when I don't want to look at something that is coming up for me, I will completely project onto whoever's in front of me. It'll be like this blame, and it takes accountability. What I've understood about that is it takes accountability from me looking at myself. So that's an ego's. The ego is really quick to say, okay, we need to keep ourselves safe. Let's not talk about that person. Let's not have that person around us anymore. And you end up. I mean, you can push people away just because you're projecting that the way that you're feeling is their responsibility. So I think the whole, understanding your survival mode of not wanting to look there is part of the ego's ploy so that you don't look at the ego. Because really, spirituality, again, kind of what we've been talking about is seeing through or seeing beyond just the mind, seeing beyond just what your subconscious thoughts, and really looking beyond and being that observer of the ego. And then changing I mean, your ego is your identity, right? So it's who you think you've always been. You're this tall and you're this skinny and you eat a lot, or you're this and you're that, and it's just all these ideas of what society has told you that you are, or your parents or your
Yeah.
friends, or it's just so I would say, that pitfall of not looking at yourself and looking at the fractals, right? We're all fractured. We all have these different fractals of the wounds, of the traumas, of, emotional abuse, physical abuse, whatever abuse and trauma was that you experienced at a younger age is going to be carried with you. So it's important to be able to look at yourself honestly. And it's being honest with yourself as to why do I react this way when this happens? Why do my emotions hit when this happens? Like, what is going on within me, not the person who's bringing it, right? Not they're pushing.
Yeah.
These are my buttons that are being pushed, not, and I'm the one who has those buttons. They're nobody else's buttons but mine. So being able to be honest with yourself, that's the complete honesty with yourself and
You know,
transparency.
that's interesting. And the idea of the wounded parts of yourself, and having that defense mechanism, it kind of reminds me of the
Oh,
idea of the lion with the
you can't. Oh, you couldn't hear you for a little bit. Earbuds.
um
There you go. You're good now.
sorry about that. So
There you
I'm
go.
not sure if that was going across stream or if it was just through Discord. Sometimes it's just a Discord thing, but
Okay.
um good to know. Thank you for letting me know. Um with regards to that wounded aspect, it kind of reminds me of the analogy, or the fable of the lion that had the sliver in his paw that's going to bite you if you try to fix it, but he needs it fixed. You know, that, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, it's not going to change the fact that the sliver's there if you don't fix it. And you can't fix it unless you're willing to address it. And so by ignoring it, by using your defense mechanism, you're just prolonging the pain. You're just prolonging the misery, the suffering. Like you know, what, why do that? Why not explore it? Why not alleviate that suffering? It might hurt at first. It might be scary at first, but why
Yeah.
not do that? Why not do that?
Look at it, and I think a lot of it too. Like we have been conditioned to not look at it.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned to, that is, we've been conditioned to be in survival mode. We've been conditioned just to blame it on somebody else, or move on, like move on from the feeling that you're getting that is uncomfortable. And Daniel, I would like to kind of put this because I know that a lot of your superpower has to do with your emotions. How would you say that emotions and spirituality are connected?
Hmm. Well,
Or
for
would you
me,
say?
they're kind of one spot right now. Um, I think that my spirituality is connected to my emotional power. One of the things that I think that all human beings possess is the ability to feel what other people are feeling. And when you think about it, that's kind of a magical realm. And there is neuroscience behind it. There's something called a mirroring neuron that when you
Mhm.
see someone smile or you see someone crying, that you know what they're experiencing and you're actually experiencing it on the inside. Whatever explanation you want to use for it, you're experiencing someone else's pain, someone else's joy, and someone else's happiness. You're experiencing the emotions of the people around you. And my superpower is either I experience them on an extraordinarily higher level, or I'm much more aware of that experience through just kind of practice and I think maybe I just had it blasted open as a kid that I just am a sensitive person with regards to emotion. But whatever it is, for me, the emotions of other people, that is the reason that I'm here on this planet. It's the messages that I've been getting. Um, and that is connected to my spirituality because it's part of who I'm meant to be. I've used that in my professional life on a non-emotional level by connecting with my students in a classroom situation and seeing their aha moments happening live on their faces and feeling the chill in my heart as they experienced it. That awakening moment, just a beautiful blooming of understanding that you I can't even describe. I've seen it in my coaching clients. I've seen it. In fact, I had a client tell me, I hate it when you have that look on your face because she had just experienced an aha moment and I had this almost smug look on my face, I think. So I've learned to hold that back a little.
You carry the emotions, your reaction on your.
but um but that is thank you so much for the follow, A Love AZ. Thank you so much for being part of our community. Love it. And Aaron Lyon, thank you both for opening your hearts and being vulnerable. You are so loved. Thank you so much, Aaron Lyon. You are loved as well. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining our community. So, yeah, does that answer your question about me?
Yeah,
Peter
yeah.
Rothschild, thank you so much for following. Appreciate you joining our community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so great. So, guys, it's the last 15 minutes of the show. And, the point of this, the purpose of this really is I would like to get people to join in for some live coaching. Um, I. Um, I just want to say that it's kind of a little bit too late now to get into some live coaching, but I do plan on trying to do a show on January 23rd. If you would like to be a part of that show, you can join our Discord session. You can also join our Discord. I'm also getting a message asking if Erica is a co host or a client. She is a co host. She's also a coach. She has a coaching business and she is here, happy to be here um, live. So, uh, and so anyway, sorry, I had to deal with a bunch of messages. I have like six different
Oh, you're
places I'm looking.
you're multitasking. You're doing a great job, by the way.
I hate multitasking. We're much better at doing one thing at a time. But with that said, I think that we have really exhausted the topic of spirituality, and yet at the same time, I think Erica could probably talk about it for hours more. What do you
I
think,
love it.
Erica?
I love it. Yes. Give me a topic about spirituality and yeah, I love hearing other people's perspective on it. I think that that is
Yeah,
like my favorite part is just opening someone up and getting to know them on that level because when you talk about spirituality it's so deep, right? When you talk about
it
how
is.
surface level that we've been conditioned to be with other people, spirituality is something that connects you and you can go deep, and some people are like, oh, okay, we're going there. It's like, unless you don't want to, we don't have to, but it's just, it's such a connection, it's such a connecting part, a connecting conversation to go deep and be vulnerable. So
Yeah.
I love it. What about you? Could you talk way more about spirituality? I know that, do you still feel a little more comfortable about it now that
Oh,
you've
you know what? Yeah, this has been a joyous experience for me to share. I have allowed myself I I shared with you before we started that I was going into this feeling a little bit of trepidation because this is a topic that is a sensitive topic for me. And I feel, vulnerable, I feel naked, I feel judged, but at the same time it's such an important thing, and I think I shared earlier that when I'm feeling those things, oftentimes it's just because I'm trying to hide the fact that I'm human. I'm trying to prevent myself from appearing normal and human to everyone else because I'm supposed to be something other than human. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I I believe firmly. Thank you so much for the follow and being part of our community, Aaron Lyon. I really appreciate it. I believe firmly that every single person on this planet that is a human is going through similar situations in their lives and has similar experiences. It's the human condition. So why would we try to hide that from other people? If I can share that with someone that is also struggling and that is is feeling the same way, maybe it helps them alleviate some of their concerns, some of their pain around spirituality and spiritual sharing their spiritual discussions with someone else. And at the same time, it is a deeply personal thing.
Mhm.
A
Yeah.
deeply personal thing. I do think that there are some areas that are still out of bounds for me to share with my personal spiritual journey, and I also think that that's okay.
Boundaries are beautiful. Boundaries are, remember, your core values help
Yeah,
provide the foundations for boundaries because, yeah, that's part of who you are. And thank you for being vulnerable. Like, this has been, it didn't seem like you were nervous even just having the conversation, but I was glad that you opened up and you are leading by example by showing people how to be uncomfortable and still, I mean, look how many people you just are, affecting at this point just by showing your vulnerability. So
yeah.
I it's been
This
great.
has
It's been
been a
great experience.
tremendous experience, and I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being my coach around spirituality and also for being a part of Game Changer today. I hope that we have you back sometime in the future, real soon. I am going to say that we are done now. We're going to end at we're going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much to everyone who participated in the channel today. We are going to try to do another stream on January 23rd, so stay tuned for more information on that. If you'd like to give us a follow, our social media information is all in the information bars below. And from you can stay a part of this beautiful community that is very fastly growing by just clicking on that Discord link, joining, and downloading a Discord app to a phone device or your computer at home. And with that said, thank you so much again, Erica. Do you have any final thoughts to share with the audience?
No, thank you for joining. Yeah, I think this has been wonderful. It's been a great experience just to be vulnerable myself too, and to really, I think we're working on getting ourselves out there for the purpose to help others. And we'd love to have anyone who wants that help, wants any advice, wants any I mean empowerment, anything. We're here to help and give back. So I appreciate you having this today, Daniel, and it's been a blessing just to be a part of it. So thank you.
And they can find you on your website, iamericakoelling.com. The information just going by the stream
Yep, I'm
right now.
ericakelling.com. Yeah, I am. It's my website is being revamped. I have some of the landing page up, but everything's just being revamped, and I got my YouTube videos up, and it's
Yeah,
getting out
and your
there. So
YouTube videos are great as well. Very high
thank you.
quality. You guys
Thank
should
you.
check them out for sure. You can also visit my website, connorscoaching.com. And we will see you guys later. Thank you so much for being part of our show. Bye.